Our podcast is a part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,000 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise on the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing one of the episodes for The Other Way. We're going to be talking about episode 14 on this episode. So that's what we're going to be doing. I don't think I'll be combining episodes. I think I'll just be doing one at a time. Just as a note, we are going to be doing the taking a quick break from tow to do below deck sailing yacht after this episode, and then we'll go back into tow and do the catch up. I predict we should be caught back up by next week with tow and tow and B90, and that's basically that. With Love is Blind now done, and from what I'm understanding with Married at First Sight from Ava, if you listen to, actually, I don't think I included this in the episode, but we did talk at the end of Love is Blind about Married at First Sight, and she said that it's a lot better than the last previous couple seasons. So I will hop back into Married at First Sight. I'll probably do one major episode or maybe 2 episodes kind of talking about everything to catch us up. So that will be after I catch up with B90, and then we'll get back on track with Married at First Sight. See how that is, and we'll go from there. And then actually, so sorry, I'm gonna correct myself. We're gonna do Golden Bachelorette somewhere in there, so I keep caught up with that. But with that, everything, that's kind of what you'll kind of have next week. We should be back on track. So that's basically that, just with the announcement. Let's get into some hot goss. So we were just talking Married at First Sight. So this is actually Married at First Sight related. And I think this is like some of this I think we kind of already know. I didn't catch everything because I'm like, oh yeah, I already knew that. But some of this was actually quite interesting. And it makes me wonder, but so Married at First Sight, as we know, um, there are some rules that the contestants must follow on their journey to find love. So as we know, the marriages are legally binding in the US. We know this. That's not, well, they tell us that, but it is true that they are legally binding. This one's interesting. All couples must sign a prenuptial agreement. I think that is so smart. And I mean, obviously not going to talk about the legalities behind the scenes, but I think that's a really great idea. It's good that they do that. Another thing, all cast members, I think this is obvious, and wedding attendees must also sign NDAs because obviously you can't spoil the season. This is interesting, and I never would have thought this was the case. I would have figured production does this, but contestants dictate filming schedules. That's very interesting, and I think also very important because sometimes, I mean, I can't think of any one in particular, but I feel like sometimes you'll get the odd person that's like, oh, filming's so exhausting, and this and that, or whatever. I thought that's probably a good idea to put out there. This we kind of know, but again, a psych evaluation is required. I don't know if this is something that the show does or they expect the contestants to do prior. I'm not sure. But we know they do a lot of background checks and questionnaires and all of this. And one of those is obviously the psych eval, which I feel like some people d- d- don't necessarily do authentically, but we'll leave it at that. I think Pastor Cal was talking about this. He explained the thorough process to ET, saying we're looking at things like their psychological testing, their core values. The evaluation system also includes analyzing certain physical traits, like the hip to waist ratio, which feels really gross in women, and the hip to shoulder ratio in men. Wow. As these attributes are thought to play a role in perceived sexual desirability and compatibility. Sure, but I feel like that's just kind of gross. But another thing which I find interesting and it makes me wonder, I've never thought about it before, but it makes me wonder, but why not? But the show does not cast parents, which I guess you want to be able to, not have that burden. I guess you want to call it a burden, and it's a focus on the marriage because I get it. But I mean, we've had. I know they're two different shows, but we've had parents on Love Is Blind. Unfortunately, they aren't chosen, but you know, but here's what they say about this. Applicants for Married at First Sight are questioned about their previous relationships, whether they've experienced heartbreak, their openness to finding love again, as well as their personal definition of love. But not everyone is eligible to participate. The show does not allow individuals who have children to take part. They are allowed to have been previously married, though, as we know. We've seen that not very often, but we have seen it. They meet with wedding planners to envision their big day. So they do take pretty big role in their wedding, which that's good to know. The couples have a say in their wedding and each sit down with a wedding planner to share their dream details. Aside from choosing the venue, they have a say in everything else. And this was a rep for the show tells people. They get to pick their dresses, suits, flowers, schemes, etc. Contestants cannot have public social media accounts, probably prior to the show airing. But here, that's not necessarily surprising. The production team covers therapy and divorce costs, that's a good one to know. I don't want to have to pay for it, yet you put me through this. What do you mean? Anyway, that's it for that piece of hot goss. This is kind of similar in the world, but we're going over to Love Is Blind. So Taylor Rue is pregnant. If you remember, Taylor was the one with I think his name was what was that guy's JP, I think? The one who had issue with her makeup, that guy. The Love Is Blind star, she was on season 5 of the series, expecting her first baby with her boyfriend Cameron Shelton. She who is almost out of her first trimester, tells People that the pregnancy news is extra special after the couple experienced a pregnancy loss earlier this year, which I believe I did talk about. Saying, quote, Cam and I are expecting a new addition to our family, baby Shelton, coming in April. Words truly can't express how excited Cam and I are for this next chapter of our lives. The past few months of our lives have had a lot of ups and downs, but one thing never changed, our love for each other and our faith. So I do have some photos too, and I'll post those later. She said this quote, and just trigger warning, she's going to be talking about pregnancy loss here. After miscarrying, we decided that we aren't going to put pressure on trying again. We're just going to enjoy each other and help each other heal. And that's exactly what we did. A few months passed and we decided to go grab a test at 10 p.m. one night and it was positive. We were so in shock and so happy we found it out on National Rainbow Baby Day. I know that God has a purpose behind every single of one his plans. I don't think she said that quite right. Of course, we are nervous for what's to come. Who wouldn't be? But the excitement outweighs the anxiety immensely. Although Taylor left the show single, as we know, having a hurtful conversation with her former fiance, JP. Yep, that's the guy. She announced last October on her Instagram that she'd met someone new, as I think I did discuss that too. but that's that. So I'll have those photos posted. I do have other photos I'm gonna be posting. That will all be done later tonight. I think you're getting this on tonight, Friday. Yep. So, next piece of hot goss, and we're still in Love is Blind world, so let's get to it. So, this was I think I was kind of talking about this in the episode, about Hannah, kind of how she was going to be approaching things with Nick at the reunion. But this is this article now, so we're going to be talking about it a little bit here. So, as the pods close on another season, as we know, Us Weekly still has a lot of questions for Hannah. The 27-year-old has made headlines for her post-show weight loss, which we did see in the reunion, which Us broke down with her in this interview. But what has it been like for her to watch back her dramatic relationship and breakup with Nick Dorka? Well, she says, and we're just going to get a lot of more of the shit we got during the reunion. This is what she says, quote, "I'm a bitch. It's like, is she a bitch or is she that bitch? But I'm bitchy. Great to know. I know that I'm direct and I can be rude a lot because I don't realize my words. Come on. People can tell you things and you can be like, oh, okay, I should work on that. But when you actually see exactly what's coming out of your mouth, you're like, that was harsh. There's conversations with Nick where I could have eased up a bit or I could have chilled like a lot. Yet your parents told you that, but you didn't listen, but that's okay. The interviewer asked, "Why did you decide to end things with Nick?" She responds, "Nick was away at another friend's wedding. My mom was in town and he had just met my friends. We were having issues. It just seemed at that point I was just dogging him and I was being the nastiest version of myself. You could have stopped, but okay. We were bringing out the worst versions in each other. I feel like that's just who you are, but anyway. It wasn't um any one thing. It was just like, okay, we're trying on wedding dresses and I can't do this. We should not be getting married. Question: Is there a reason you didn't want to wait for the weddings? Hannah says, I think it would be cruel to have his family and my family come to the wedding when we both know that this is probably not going to work out. But the other thing is, we just didn't like each other toward the end. I don't think you liked him, but I don't think he liked, I think he had it. But you didn't like him for most of the time, let's be honest. But she continues on to say, I was not being nice and I don't know why we would want to continue that. It was just like, we need to break this off before it gets nastier because it's already getting nasty. Question: Nick came off a bit surprised by the breakup. Did you understand why he might have been confused about why you ended things? Hannah says, I don't really know. It's really hard for me to understand it, and I still have trouble understanding him to this day. But I think he was surprised because he wanted to go all the way. I don't think it should have been a shock because it was pretty obvious that we weren't gonna make it. I was talking to him horribly, and I apologize for that, but I just can't believe he let me. Excuse me? This is what I meant that she was putting it on him. I should not have done that, but he let me do it. Wow. So to put it on him for your bullshit, this is what I was talking about in that episode that you would have gotten earlier. By the way, if you haven't listened to it, you can head over to it. It was posted earlier in the today. Question: How much did Nick's chat with Katie play into the breakup? Hannah responds, I was just frustrated by the whole situation. I felt like it was like, hello, I'm right here. I have no clue what's going on. I think it was a little bit out of line, but it's not that serious. Well, to her face, you said it wasn't out of line. Now you're saying before that though, it was out. Okay. Let's just continue. Um, it was just that they were talking for almost an hour and I was standing right there. I didn't even think about it. I was like, what are you talking about? I had no clue. Now that I watch it, I think it's completely harmless. Not that I think she gave him phenomenal advice, but wow. But I had no clue what they were saying to each other. I was very frustrated. at that moment, like if you can't just simply explain when I'm curious about what's going on, then maybe in the future it'll be worse. It was just another thing that was troublesome. The next question, is Katie still one of your best friends? Well, as we know, yes. And as we know, she's about to say something we already know. She says, Katie, myself, and Marissa, we call ourselves the trio. Yes, I said that. And we're very close, very fucking obvious. As you can see, very dramatic. You don't fucking say. And when I said she's the best friend in the whole world, I meant like we are very close in the pods. And I think what people didn't realize is that just as fast as you can get married to someone, you can develop friendships just as fast. Understood. But best friend? We were good friends. Maybe she's not my best friend in the whole wide world, but we are good friends. Question. Do you think Nick misled you at all with comments about his looks and being a football player? She says it's really hard because he was being humorous about the Travis Kelce comparison or whatever. If that was a joke, you can't tell it's a joke on the other end. Like, it's hard. I can't tell. So that's what you're expecting. But not only that, Nick, as the other girls said, Nick is not what we expected. Even though Nick is very attractive, Nick was just like, I have one green eye, I have one blue eye, I'm Cuban, I gave freckles, I'm a big guy. He painted so much about himself. He gave so many characteristics that you couldn't help but build this person in your head. When he wasn't that person, which is totally fine, it was just shocking. I think we were both guilty in the way. I took what he said and ran with it, even though that's because of my own imagination. But he also gave away a lot of information to where I did have an image of him. That's very fair. Question. What did you mean when you said you felt manipulated by Nick during your relationship? She says, I felt manipulated in the way like, let's go to the forbidden topic of sex. For instance, one of the reasons that Nick and I developed such a close relationship, and it was almost lustful in a way, is we talked about sex a lot and we were very open about it. And when he first told me he didn't want to talk about it on camera, I just thought, okay, I get it. Friends, family will see it. His parents are Catholic. But then I started to think, I don't understand why you don't want to share this on camera. This is a huge problem that we're having in our relationship. I mean, you don't have to share it though. You don't have to. There's plenty of people, I'm sure Garrett and Taylor were having sex and they weren't sharing it. So, whatever. But anyway, um, and I think this is stemming from my anger, which is not a good thing, but it was. It felt like I needed to talk about it. And him saying that he didn't want to talk about it, I felt like he just didn't want anything to make him look not in a good light. I was cruel to Nick and I completely apologized. I should not have acted that way, but I think I was just so frustrated because when we were on camera, he didn't say much and he was just very much like agreeable, but we're not agreeing off camera. Next question. Have you talked to him at all since the show started airing? We don't speak. Next question. What is your number one question for Nick at the reunion? And this is when I completely lose it. Hannah says, why did you let me speak to you in that way? Or like, why didn't you let me treat you like that? I shouldn't have treated you like that, but if we really loved each other and stuff, why did we want to continue this if it was making you miserable? I just don't understand. What in the loving Jesus Christ am I hearing? Your question. And what would your number one question be for another one of your co-stars? She says, I want to know why Tim is mad that Alice was taking naps. Let her sleep. She didn't even get to finish her dinner. What was that about? That's funny. Um, question. What about Leo? When it wasn't working out with Nick, did any part of you think, oh my God, should I have gone with Leo? She says, when we had our dramatic breakup, that put a bad taste in my mouth for a bit. Leo truly was not even on my mind at all because I was so laser focused on Nick. And then after the experience, you always think like, what would have been if I would have chosen someone different? I said it. What would that relationship be like? It would be completely different, but you'll never know. I think about it sometimes, but it's not at the front of my mind or anything. I'm sure it's not. But that is it for that piece of hot goss. I know that was a little longer. I think I got mixed up with which one was going to be longer, Nick or Hannah's. So I think that's part of that. So I apologize for that. But if you didn't want to listen to that, you just wanted to skip to the episode. But let's get into the reason that we are here. The Other Way, season 6, episode 14. Reality Frights. So Statler and Dempsey. We're just gonna kind of go through this quick because again, like I don't really have much to say really, so I'm just gonna kind of go through it quick. Yeah. So we are on the boat still because that's how far back we are, and we have now landed in France. So I didn't know. I always thought that it's just everywhere in Europe just drives on the left side of the road, but apparently no. France does drive on the right side of the road, so that's interesting. Statler and Dempsey are not happy with how things went, yet you don't say. Like, yeah. And sorry, I think it was Statler says when I reach a limit, now is just not the time to be having these kind of conversations. And it's not the time to be offended. I think the problem is that Dempsey needs to know that it's not about you. I know it's hard. I understand. I am sometimes Dempsey in the equation with my mom, but I've also learned that it's not about me necessarily. Yes, it's frustrating, but it's not about me. So you have to kind of just let it be. But she says that she will be offended if she's being rude. Again, I said it already, so I won't rehash it. She says that's not her intention because, of course, like I just said already, it's not. And Dempsey hopes that she will get over her anxiety, her panic attacks, or everything someday. That's very wishful thinking on Dempsey's part, and it will never happen. I hate to say it. Not to say that it will never happen. I don't want to be negative, but it's never going to go away fully. You can learn to live with it. You can learn to have coping mechanisms. You can do all of those things, but it's never going to go away. My mom, when I think about my mom and what she's been through and where it stems from, with her anxiety and her panic attacks, I think for her, it reared its ugly head around the time that I was born. And I am over 30, right? And it's definitely gotten worse over the years. And my mom's had good times. My mom's had the bad times with it. Um, and but it's never going to go away. And I know so many people that, once it's always for me, I'll talk about me and my example. It's always kind of been at the edge, waiting for something to happen. Um, it's always kind of been in the back of my mind that some sort of mental ailment is going to probably rear its ugly head for me because of my family history. But it was kind of always there. And I had that one thing that pushed it over the edge, um, 10 years ago. And it's not something has been gone. I've had times where I've hadn't had a single episode of anxiety or anything like that. I've had that, but I can also just have moments where I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know what's causing me to feel this way, but I feel this vibration in my body. And I know that vibration is the anxiety because I can also be like, why do I feel like this? Why am I having these weird thoughts that have no rhyme nor reason. And sometimes that's just how it is for some people, and some people can experience things a lot worse. Some people experience things that's not quite like that. Everyone's experience is different. But for Dempsey to kind of say, I hope she's able to it go away someday. It's like, that just kind of shows me you haven't done any research on what she's dealing with. And the anxiety and the panic attacks is one thing, but those things are also stemming from the other things that she is diagnosed with, and that is her having ADHD and being autistic. So those things are not going away. And in turn, yes, she can probably have good moments, but I believe a lot of what Statler was experiencing on this boat ride wasn't just the anxiety or the panic. That I feel is secondary, honestly. Or it was a symptom of the real thing that's going on here. It's her autism. And in this particular case, because what Statler was kind of experiencing here is things that I have witnessed in my own family with the autism. She has a routine in her mind. Her mind is telling her this is how it has to be. And if it's not going to be this way, it's going to be worse, right? Even though there's no rhyme nor reason as to why. And she says that she knows there isn't, but that is how her mind is telling her she has to go through this. She has to do this. So not only that, but she's also dealing with, she doesn't like to be on the boat. She doesn't like that. She's had an experience where she had a bathroom debacle on a boat. So that past thing, even though that's probably not going to happen again, but that past thing is going to make her think, I'm out of control and I don't like that. This happened before, so there's a possibility it could happen again. That's what her mind is telling her. And what Dempsey doesn't realize is that there is no controlling that. There is no, Statler can't say, I'm fine. And her body and her mind also say that to her. She knows she's probably okay, but with everything she's going through in her mind and how she processes things, she can't do it. She has to do this way because that is what she's being told in her mind. And that's not going to change. And I feel like the way that Dempsey could learn to deal with it is to do her research, but honestly, at the same time, maybe these two shouldn't even have been in a relationship together. Um, I don't know. But so yeah, she says that. She asks, "Will you still be with me?" This is what Dempsey asks because of obviously Dempsey made that comment. And Dempsey says, I want to be there for you, but I don't want to when it's like that. The way that could have been avoided is I thought initially was nice with her and said, I can't talk right now. I just want to stay here. I want to be left alone. Like she did that initially. But when Dempsey isn't okay with that response or is pushing more or whatever, yes, someone is going to snap. And like I said this already in a previous episode, I am so happy, Dempsey, that you have never experienced what she's experiencing. I'm very happy for you. But you can have a little sympathy for the person that you're supposed to love and understand that this isn't about you. She's not trying to attack you. She's not. But yeah, and I've seen a lot of comments online too of people being like, oh, she just should handle it. And I'm not saying Statler is a good person. I'm not a Statler apologist. I'm not saying that. I think Statler makes incorrect decisions. I don't think she should have ever agreed to do this, but she did. But that does not mean that she she ca- she can't just stop how she's feeling. And when she handled herself as best as she could. She wasn't yelling. She didn't raise her voice. She begged and pleaded, "Can you stop? Can we talk about this when we get off the boat? Can we talk about this when we are on land?" And that's exactly what they did, what they ended up doing, even though Dempsey complains, "Oh, but I have to drive." But you still have the conversation while driving. What are you talking about? But I do have a question. Now that they're on the right side of the road, can Statler help with driving? Because they're on the right side of the road. I'm coming out of this. I'm thinking, wait, she could help driving as well because they drive on the right side of the road. I'm just saying. But anyway, um, they are, yeah, I think they're good for now. Anyways, they're good for now. That's basically that. They arrive in Paris and all's good in the world. Um, the next thing, give me 1 second because I need to find that piece of the note. Yeah, so they are, as I said, in Paris now, and they're just kind of walking around and taking in the sights. They see some crepes and um I don't know if they actually got any crepes, even though Statler said she could eat the hell out of a crepe right now. But I don't know why they didn't go get the crepes. But go get the crepes. What do you mean? When in Paris, get some crepes. Um, then she walks up to this guy and says, "Can we get a caricature picture done?" So, they're sitting there getting the thing done. The guy was, nice and talking. And um, Sadler asks while they're doing this, like, "What is your goal, like, for us? Like, what does Dempsey hope for this relationship?" And she does say, marriage. Marriage is kind of her will be that. And the thing is that's interesting is, like, Sadler's like, "You would think that I would jump on that because remember last season that they were on, we're thinking, is she or isn't she going to propose to her, even though she probably shouldn't." And, like, she was going to, but, like, Dempsey was like, "No, no, 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 it's too soon." But now she's like, "Let's do this thing." Let's remember, guys, it's only been, like, 3 months since they last saw each other. And, man, I don't even I think it's 3 months. I think it's 3 months that they last saw each other. And all of a sudden now she's talking about marriage. What is happening? And you guys have not been communicating very well. She comes off of the plane, and it's like we're telling each other "fuck you" and calling each other bitches and shit. I don't know if marriage is a good idea, but yeah. So she says, yes, sometimes we might blow things out of proportion, but we always forgive each other really quickly. That's not I don't feel like that should be the goal because you guys forgive each other quickly. I feel like I don't know, man. Um, so our guy here is like, Paris, it's the city of love. So you could, propose. And Statler's like, "Don't give her any ideas." Like, no. And the other thing that's funny here that I'm like, "Wait, what? 2 seconds ago, you were ready to break up with her." But Dempsey's like, "I feel safe with you." Pourquoi? For why? I'm confused. Because you, like I said, were literally about ready to break up with her and didn't feel as safe and comfy on the ferry, but now you're like, "I feel safe with you." What? Don't worry, guys, because the next episode that they're in, she's not going to feel this that way anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what? I can't. But anyway, then the picture is now done. The guy turns it over, and god damn it, Why did he do Statler like that? Why did he do Statler like that? Dempsey's look great. Why did he do Statler like that? Her teeth don't look like that. What is happening? And she's like, okay, okay, yeah, that's what I look like. Okay, yeah, sure. It's great. It's fine. Yeah. Like, and Dempsey's dying. I was dying the first time I watched it. And I'm just like, what is that? What is that? Why would you do that? And then they gotta pay you. And you made Statler look like that. That was mean. Anyway, that's it for them. Let's do Corona and Inky, and then we'll take a break. There's not much here with Corona and Inky. So they're going to be doing the cold plunge. Um, Black people don't do this shit. I'm sorry. Black people aren't doing this shit. We don't do this. No. Anyway, let's just get to it. So she's like, I ain't no punk. I am. Bitch, I am. I would not. Are you kidding? Mm-mm. But we find out that the ocean is a whopping -4 degrees Celsius. And I'm sorry, Americans, I understand this. So I'm just like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Seriously. No. -4. You're supposed to be bundled up, scarf, gloves, winter jacket, boots, the whole bit in -4 temperatures, and you're doing a cold plunge? I think not. I know it's supposed to be good for you and, and all of that, and your joints and shit, like Inky said. I don't care. I'll go get a massage. I don't care about how this is beneficial health. I don't care. So, yeah. She's like, Black people aren't supposed to be doing this. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. We're not supposed to do this. And he just, y'all, he just goes in like it's nothing. He just walks in like it's like he's in Florida or something. He's just out there, not bothering him. And she's like, he's built for this. He's a Viking. I wasn't built for this. I'm like, my God, sir, do you do do you feel how cold it's supposed to be? You're just out there being like, "Hum dum." What is going on? And she goes in, and my girl's good because I went. She went in tiptoeing, and she's like, ah. And then she puts just her butt, and then she dips. She's like, out. And he's like, nothing. He's just like, what's the problem? That's him. He's just like, what's going on? What's wrong? What's going on? You don't have a cold? No. I've never I've never seen anything quite like it. How calm, cool, and collected he is in -4. Okay, -4 Celsius with the wind hitting your face is bad enough, right? -4 degrees Celsius in ocean is different. That hits different. That hits different. Like, and what he's just, I don't, okay, all right. But, um, she's like, don't ever ask me to do that again because I will not be doing that again. She's like, I'm not sure if I love you anymore. I don't think I do. Spoiler alert for those who know what's been going on. I don't think she really does. Anyway, they go into the hot tub at this point though, and it's a much better. That's that's my world, is the hot tub. That's so much better and so much better. But then again, going from cold to hot like that also can't be healthy, but what do I know? So he asks, like, so how did the university conversations go? And she gets into all of that with him, which we don't have to rehash. And she tells him, like, it could take me 2 years because I need to learn the language and all of that. And he's like, well, you're already on your way to doing that. She's like, no, no, not really. She knows like maybe 5 words. I have rarely heard her speak Icelandic. And the Icelandic I've heard her speak is like five. And I think I'm being generous. So she's not, she's really not. Um, And she says, like, this really could affect her mood if she's not being able to do what she wants to do. Because he also says, like, could you work in the hospital in the meantime until you figure all of this out? And she's like, sure, I could. But, like, I've already been waiting so long to be able to go to midwifery school. So the fact that I have to wait longer, like, she's tired of waiting kind of situation here. She just wants to get it done. And, um, And she says, if my mood's affected, well, then his mood's going to be affected too, and we're not going to be great. So, um, yeah, she just wants to she wants to do her passion. Um, he's like, yeah, but all things can help, you know? The problem is how could she work in the hospital? Or that's going to be limited because she can't communicate with the people in their native language because she can't speak the language. She won't be able to do that until she learns how to speak Icelandic. And what my understanding is Icelandic is very, very difficult language to learn. So what? I don't see how that's going to happen either. But she says she's, like I said, running out of patience. And he's like, well, lucky for you, I got loads of patience for the both of us. And she's like, really? Really? And then that's part I have to agree with. I don't care if you have patience. It's my patience that I'm talking about, not your patience. My patience and your patience are different. My patience is running thin. And if your patience is still, uh, you know, a 3/4 tank, I'm going to get mad. So, no. But, um, she says that she doesn't want, like, this casual response out of him, like the "it's gonna be okay" type thing. She wants it to be realistic. She wants that. I think for him, that is realistic. I don't know. But, um and she says that she's questioning all of this, and I said, "Ma'am, you should have questioned all of that before you moved to Iceland." But again, as I've mentioned, what do I know? I'm just a podcaster, that's all. But anyways, that's it for Corona and Inky. We're gonna take a quick break here, and when we come back, we will jump in with Shekinah and Sarper. And I am back. So let's jump in with Sarper and Shekinah. So she has gone back home after all of the debacle. And as we know, bottles are gone. He's relieved that she's back home. He just feels it was so empty without her. And she's taking off her coat too. And he's like, yeah, take it off. Take it all off. And I'm like, geez, don't, dude. Not in my presence. Anyway. And he says like he's petting Adonis and he's like, you miss me? Yeah. And she asks him, like, did therapy help you understand like where I'm coming from with everything? And he says, yeah, it works. But she said, once is not enough. Finally, someone on this universe says one time therapy isn't enough. And she says, did you um start arranging for your own individual therapy? And he says, yes, I made an appointment for therapy. And she says, Oh, did you? And she's like, for both of us or for yourself? And he says, yes, for himself, is what he meant. And yeah, it was just like, did you? Did you though? I don't know. And again, like watching this, and I'm like thinking, give this man a break. Like he's telling you something. And she's like, I found it weird that he didn't tell me. Because usually he tells me everything. And the fact that he didn't tell me this before, like, it's weird. Like, it just makes me think he's not being honest with me or something. And she's questioning him. And I'm like, girl, you can't complain about things when he's doing it. Like, you got to give the man a chance. And then Sarper just makes me realize that I'm an idiot. And she's like, Did you really? And he's like, no. He didn't even fight back a little bit. He just folded. He's like, no, no, I didn't. And she's like, well, so now you're lying to me. Now we have to add that to the list of problems that we have. Great. And he's like, it's a white lie. It's not a big deal. And she's like, lying is lying. Which, okay, yeah, that's true. And yes, the right terminology is a white lie. But then in his ITM, he's like, it's just a little pink lie. It's fine. I'm like, pink lie? Oh, that's different. What's a pink lie? That's new. Kind of sounds like pink eye, but pink lie. And he says, all you do is scold me, and then I have to say I'm sorry. And it's true in other situations where she's getting on him for stupid shit, I would be 100%, well, not 100%, that's too generous. I'd understand where he's coming from. But in this case, you lied, so it's like, okay, you don't really have that leg to stand on. And she says, well, like, whose fault is that though? Like, who did that, me or you? And he's like, you're like olive oil. When mixed with water, always be on top. Being on top is good in bed, but not in life. And I said, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, I mean, again, not wrong, but just time. There's a time and there's a place. Now is not the time, and now is not the place. Maybe we don't talk about how it's better if she's on top, and that's when it's fun, or whatever the hell he just said. So she's like, I'm not going to let you get away with stuff anymore. Again, it's hard to flip the script when this is what he's been used to for the last however long these two have been together now. But at the same time, I hear where she's coming from. Definitely need to flip the script, but give him a minute to catch up, I guess, because he's been used to submit. I mean, you argued with Andre about the situation. And now you're just kind of like, I don't want to be submissive anymore, you know? I guess to her also being submissive is for the bedroom. That's when it's fun, but not in life. Anyway, the next thing that we have with them. So we're going to be having just a fun day. This is going to be quick. Nothing much to really say here. They're at a photo shoot studio. And with, they're going to be doing a photo shoot in traditional clothing. And this traditional clothing is from the Ottoman Empire, which is really, I recognize the clothing, but I don't know much about the empire. He says this is the most traditional that they have, and he's dressed like a sultan. Now I'm going to say that word again, sultan. That's how we say sultan. Yeah. And because of his accent, though, he says it sounds like he says sultan. And my girl can't even realize that he's saying sultan and say sultan. And she's like, what's a sultan? What's a sultan? I'm like, oh no. Like, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry, guys, for what I'm about to say. I'm going to sound like an idiot. But didn't you ever watch Aladdin? Jasmine's dad was a sultan. I wonder if he had more than one wife. Anyway, so yeah, so we're going to be dressed like a sultan. And she says, I've done photo shoots, back in LA. I'm used to doing this. This is normal, but normally I have less clothes on, so this is different. Um, he says that he is trying to change slowly but slowly. I said slowly but slowly. Isn't it slowly but surely? And he said slowly but slowly. Oh man. But he wants one thing from her. He says, you're so possessive. And he's like, I've been loyal to you like a puppy. And I want you to stop that possessiveness. And again, she justifies it. And again, it's like, come on. If you hear yourself saying stuff like this, please check yourself and be like, oh God, did I say that? Because she literally says, listen, no, I'm not jealous. Jealousy is when you are wanting something that's not yours, but you're already mine. So the right word would be possessive because I'm just being protective of what's already mine. Okay. All right. So, but he says, you have to trust me. And I think this is in the moment. He's like, you have to trust me. Even if you find a girl in the closet, you have to trust me. And she says, no, I'm not going to trust you if I find a girl in your closet. The things this man thinks of to say, I'm just like, oh no. But then we end off the scene with her licking his face, and that's a wrap on them for this episode. That was a choice. I mean, again, nothing wrong with licking. I like to do that too, but not in a photo shoot. This guy's like, really? Did you have to do that? Anyway, that's it for them. Let's move on to our final couple of this episode, and that is Lily and Josh. And oh boy. So, Jared, if you remember Jared, of course, we remember Jared. We're further ahead than I am. I've watched all the episodes. It's fine. Jared is his brother. He's arriving here today, and he's going to be here for the wedding, as we know. And he has flowers for Lily. And she's like, I missed him. She has a really good relationship with Jared. She will text Jared when her and Josh are fighting. That sounds healthy. And we go into the elevator, which has elevator music. Did we know this before? This woman, I'm sorry, you can't complain about money when you're out here having an elevator with elevator music. Why do you need elevator music in your home elevator? I'm just putting all the facts out there. Why? Anyway, we take a little tour of the house. Well, a big tour because it's a big house. Josh tells him about the arguments that they've been having, about all their issues that they've been having. We don't need to rehash it. We know all of it. And he asks, like, or I think Jared asks, like, do you maybe think it's a language barrier? Ding, ding, ding. Thank you, Jared. Voice of reason. Yes. And the thing, okay, this is in a later episode, so we'll talk about it more there. When they're having conversations with each other, knowing that she has very little knowledge of the English language, obviously he has no knowledge of Chinese or whatever, if she speaks Mandarin or Cantonese, I don't know. They talk to each other, and he'll talk to her this big ass sentence and paragraphs and novels of English, and she has no clue what the hell he's saying. You have a translator, and yet you refuse to use it in these moments. I feel like you're gonna have to do that, and eventually you both are gonna figure it out with the language barriers. Like, it's just, come on. But he thinks it is, because that she's a little more direct, which I think, yes, um I think Asians in general can be very direct and don't give two fucks. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So he thinks it's partially because of that. But he says that this whole thing has to be just overwhelming for both of them. Like, it's, both of them are overwhelmed. And let's not forget, she's horny as hell because he won't sleep with her. So anyway, he thinks it's not necessarily like how they kind of thought this would be. It's new, how he's reacting to things. So they both kind of have to give them both each other patience through this. But then we go over to the next scene. We are going to be heading to a night market, and it's going to have all kinds of things, food and whatever else is in these night. We kind of saw her with food and stuff, but we'll see in the next episode, or I'll talk about it in the next episode. And she's like, there's gonna be Chinese snake, and they're like, I'm sorry, what? No, did you say snake? Are we eating snake? And she's like, oh no, not snake, not snake, snack. Whew. I don't want to eat snake. And she ends up asking Jared, do you think I love Josh? Or I think she said, do you think Lily loves Josh? But I'm not gonna, I know that's her knowledge of the language. I'm just gonna say, do you think instead of using her in third person. She said, do you think I love Josh? And he says, yes, but sometimes he thinks, I don't. Sorry, no, he says yes. She responds back with, but sometimes he thinks that I don't love him or whatever because we fight. And she hopes that Jared can maybe help with their situation because he's a mediator, y'all. Why not? Oh, anyway, she says he always texts all the time. So this was a little confusing, but from what I gathered here, she was getting upset. They went out to dinner. She was getting upset because he was texting with somebody. She doesn't know who who he was texting with. I think the thing is that I needed more context with the reason why she's upset with the fact that he's texting a lot. We get that in later episodes. So with that in mind, when I'm watching this more recently now after what's come up, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. We'll talk about it there, but yeah, she's saying he texts a lot. She doesn't know who he's texting. And she got frustrated with him and she like dips. From his perspective, he doesn't know where she is. Come to find out, she's been in her car just upset because he's been texting too much. And that's kind of what happened with this argument that she brought up. And he says, I think Jared says, oh, maybe she's upset. And Josh is like, but she gets upset easy, like easily she gets upset. And I said, oh, wait, pot, kettle, black as hell. Are you serious, Josh? You get upset also very easily. She mentions, God, she could ask for 50 cents and you'll be like, I don't have money. You know I don't have money. We knew I wouldn't have any money. I wouldn't have a job. I can't work for 5 years. He would freak out over anything, but it's only her. She gets mad easily. Okay. So then she says, last night, 500. So saying last night I spent $500. And Josh, without even letting her finish anything, I mean, yes, she talks about money a lot. I will give him that. But immediately he's like, yeah, I know. You love telling me how much you spend. That's all you talk about is money. And I'm like, oh my God, the condescending attitude that this guy has. And he says to her, oh, no, sorry. She says, when we met, I know you poor people. Shit. When she said, you poor people, I'm like, shots fucking fired. But again, I know it's I know it's her English, but I'm just like, I love it. I personally love it. I think it's funny, but I'm just like, you poor people. But she's like, yeah, you poor people. You told me you have no money, but I still loved you. I still married you, which is true. That's the point she's trying to get across here. She's like, I already knew you were a broke ass. I already knew this. I already knew you were a scrub hanging on the best friend's, hanging out the window of your best friend's ride. I already knew this. Okay. I knew this, but I still married you. Okay. I still married you because it has nothing to do with money. You a bum on the street. I married you because yeah, you don't have money. That's fine. Now I know it's a stretch when I'm trying, but I'm just trying to say, like, I'm trying to make it funny. But what she's trying to say is, I don't care. about the money and the lack thereof that you have been able to supply, I still married you. And that's the part that maybe he's missing or he's like refusing to hear. And he says, the problem is that I don't like to live in the past. You do, though. You like to live in the past. Wait for it. You like to really live in the past, and that's not who I am. I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, what would you rather do? You know what? No, no, forget it. You know what would make this so much better? You know what will make him so happy and then like they're never gonna fight anymore. First of all, A, what will help her is if you have sex with her. She's a horny girl. Give her what she wants. Secondly, the man misses his Legos. He needs his Legos. Why didn't Jared come with his Legos? That's what he needs. It'll make him really happy. If you could just have one of those rooms or whatever and just do little Lego sets and play with little Lego guys. And yeah, that's what he needs. Okay. So he's like, yeah, I want to move on. You just want to live in the past. And Jared is like, get me the fuck out of the car. Like, he didn't ask for this. He's supposed to be on vacation. He doesn't want this. Having to take on a mediator and have to deal with your fights. Like, what the hell? This poor man has been having to deal with this with every one of his relationships. Seriously. He's had to deal with Josh and his bullshit from the minute he was born, okay? The minute he was born, he's been just a delight. He doesn't want to do this shit. Poor Jared. Bless his heart. And I mean that. God. Anyway, he says, she always does this. She always does this. And um he's like, we can never just move forward. And he's like, Lily, thank you for ruining Jared's evening. And Jared's like, but what? I didn't say anything about ruining anybody's night. I didn't say that. I don't put words in my mouth. And he literally was like, you didn't ruin my night. You didn't do that. You didn't ruin my night. But I'm like, the fuck, Josh? Like, you don't have to be an asshole to your wife. Like, this brought me back to Molly. You're an asshole to my kids. But anyway, you don't have to be like that. Like, what the hell? But anyway, whatever. That's it for this episode of The Other Way, episode 14. The next thing we're going to do, again, as mentioned in the beginning, we're going to take a quick break from tow back over to below deck. Do we say caught up there? And then we will head back over to tow. Yeah, that's it. That's it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And Don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Week Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.